Good morning. Welcome to your kingdom come. As you can see, we're back on Ecclesiastes. I wanted to finish this out by the end of the week. I had a little curveball yesterday, as if you've been following the channel or stumbled upon, you'll see that I had covered who is Jesus, who is Paul, and I think I'm going to elaborate more on that later down the road with maybe another video with some more scriptures and some things to back up the position I was showing yesterday, and just trying to enlighten or bless anybody that comes across it, either Jew or Gentile, or Jew or Christian, whatever you want to call yourself. But getting back to Ecclesiastes, we're going to cover 9 and 10 today, and then hopefully we'll see maybe tomorrow we'll finish it up with 11 and 12. So just brief, like I always do, brief intro. King Solomon wrote this. He rose to power, amassed great wealth, had great wisdom, but he did find one downfall late in his life, or should I say mid to late in his life, which was he chased after women to the point where he got clouded in his judgment, and you see that pouring out in this book of Ecclesiastes. So I just want to make those things aware to you so that the Spirit of God, the Spirit of our Creator, our Father, can reveal to you the context when he says certain things that may go against some other passages in the Bible, and you might second guess and say, wait a minute, well, maybe the Bible is not what it says it is, but no, there's a deeper meaning. And in the Hebrew understanding, the literal would be the Bishat. That's when you read it and you just take it for what it says. But there also is a deeper meaning that's hidden like a veil that you have to really put in the work and diligently seek after to get that revelation that doesn't come by just glossing over your Bible or hearing it on a Sunday service. So I just wanted to make that announcement as we get started. So death comes to all, Ecclesiastes 9. This too I carefully explored. Even though the actions of godly and wise people are in God's hands, no one knows whether God will show them favor. The same destiny ultimately awaits everyone, whether righteous or wicked, good or bad, ceremonially clean or unclean, religious or irreligious. Good people receive the same treatment as sinners, and people who make promises to God are treated like people who don't. So as you can see in the first two verses, that is a mouthful, but ultimately what he's saying is something that we would agree with. Just because someone is wicked, they could have prosperity in this life, and a lot of times they do. And then some people who are dedicated and consecrated to their Creator have some horrific events and tragic events. I had ended off, I think it was the last video I did on Ecclesiastes, where I had specifically stated that our thoughts are as far away as the heavens are to our Creator's thoughts. We cannot comprehend why and what purpose he does everything. It's better to just trust and obey, but he will also reveal these things to you when you're obedient, and he will give you those different tests, but you have the manual, the book of life, the Bible, the scriptures to guide you, so when those trials occur, you could kind of navigate through them and understand that this is just a matter of life. We live in a fallen world, so things are going to happen to all of us. None of us are exempt, and that will keep you balanced, and you will maintain your faith through that storm with that mindset. It seems so wrong that everyone under the sun suffers the same fate. Already twisted by evil, people choose their own mad course, for they have no hope. There is nothing ahead but death anyway. So he's balancing again. He's struggling. Now, if you remember, if we go back, I would say it's in, and I'll show it so I don't just quote out of the side of my mouth. I think it was chapter 5, maybe a little earlier. Here it is. No, I'm sorry, chapter 3. Now, look how double-minded or how confused he is, again, to get context, because his mind has been messed with, because he's been at the pinnacle spiritually, and he's what you would call the hills and the valleys. And now he's down in a valley, and he's going through this as he's journaling all this down as the teacher, Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. But look at what he says in verse 11 and 3. When we went through this, I mentioned this before. Yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So again, isn't that interesting? And in chapter 3, he makes this statement. But when you go to chapter 9, he makes a statement where he says that it is better because they face the same fate, already twisted by evil. People choose their own mad course, for they have no hope. There is nothing ahead but death anyway. So can you see what the Spirit of God is trying to reveal to you here? of how the wisest man, known to be the wisest man, can have this matter of confusion, dig deeper. The literal would almost, if you took this chapter, like I always speak, if you took this chapter out of context, you would almost say that Solomon is saying there's no eternity, but his mind is completely double-minded at this point in his life, clearly. I'm just exposing the scriptures to you again. There is hope only for the living. As they say, it is better to be a live dog than a dead lion. Now, I actually would agree with that, because everything you do in this life while you're alive is written in pencil, meaning it could be erased. But when you close your eyes for that last time, it's written in permanent marker. So yes, I do actually agree with that statement wholeheartedly. It is better to be a live dog than a dead lion. The living at least know they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further rewards. See, he's kind of tying into what I just said. Nor are they remembered. Whatever they did in their lifetime, loving, hating, envying, is all long gone. They no longer play a part in anything here on the earth. So go ahead, eat your food with joy, and drink your wine with a happy heart, for God approves of this. Wear fine clothes with a splash of cologne. Live happily with the woman you love through all the meaningless days of life that God has given you under the sun. The wife God gives you is your reward for all your earthly toil. Whatever you do, do well. For when you go to the grave, there will be no work or planning or knowledge or wisdom. I have observed something else under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry, and the skillful are not necessarily wealthy, and those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. It is all decided by chance, by being at the right place at the right time. People can never predict when hard times might come. Like fish in a net or birds in a trap, people are caught by sudden tragedy. So that was a whole mouthful again, and I want to stress one of the most important points he makes here, that the fastest runner doesn't always win the race. I again agree with that. So where do we get off as the ant, as the created, having the audacity to have pride? Pride should be the least from a true believer's mentality. We have no right to have pride, because I can assure you, if you're truly a child of our Creator and you are a kingdom citizen, you will be humbled, including myself. I was humbled harshly a couple times, and now I say, no mas, no more. I get it. I just want to be the obedient child. I don't want to take the hard discipline. So I want to just make this point stress to you that if you can grasp the concept that good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people, and just trust on when your storm comes, be ready. And when there's joy, praise. When there's a storm, praise. Trust. Obey. That's the only way you'll make it. If not, you will be that antelope that falls into the back, outside of the pack, that gets eaten alive by the roaring lion. Here is another bit of wisdom that has impressed me as I have watched the way our world works. There was a small town with only a few people, and a great king came with his army and besieged it. A poor wise man knew how to save the town, and so it was rescued. But afterward, no one thought to thank him. So even though wisdom is better than strength, those who are wise will be despised if they are poor. What they say will not be appreciated for long. Better to hear the quiet words of a wise person than the shouts of a foolish king. So I want you to see that as well. Better to have wisdom than weapons of war, but one sinner can destroy much that is good. Again, I will make this point on 18. You don't walk into a clinic of sick people and they catch your wellness. You have to stay away from sick people. If you're not going there to help give them the remedy, the cure, which is the true gospel, the biblical scriptural gospel, the good news message of how their heart can be healed, you should stay away, because you will catch their illness if you're not strong enough. So one sinner can destroy much that is good. They're like a cancer. So if you're going there to help remove that cancer out, that's one thing. But the company you keep, bad company corrupts good character. This is not my opinion. This is other verses I'm giving you. So now moving on to chapter 10. As dead flies cause even a bottle of perfume to stink, So a little foolishness spoils great wisdom and honor. Just remember, this is a scroll. Chapters and verses weren't in the original context in Hebrew. These were written on scrolls. If you notice, every one of my videos I end with are on that scroll. I want to try to get your mind, that visual, to understand that we see pages and verses and chapters, but understand that is not how they were written. They should flow right into it. So that's why this verse here ties completely into chapter 9's ending, 18. A wise person chooses the right road. A fool takes the wrong one. You can identify fools just by the way they walk down the street. If your boss is angry at you, don't quit. A quiet spirit can overcome great mistakes. The ironies of life. There is another evil I have seen under the sun. Kings and rulers make a grave mistake when they give great authority to foolish people and low positions to people of proven worth. I mean, this is any leader of any knowledge or any skill would set people up to put them in the best position to be successful, whether that be in business, whether that be in a spiritual walk, whether that be in your congregation, whether it be a home study that you do with 6 or 8 people. Why would you have the babe constantly leading the congregation? Does that make any sense? Are they learned? Have they studied? Have they put in the work? Have they spent many hours on their knees? Have they spent hours when everyone else was sleeping putting in the work? Then you have to be careful who you put in what position or allow to be in a position to influence or affect other people. This is very simple to me, and I hope bringing these scriptures out can help you. I have seen even servants riding horseback like princes, and princes walking like servants. When you dig a well, you might fall in. When you demolish an old wall, you could be bitten by a snake. So now he's giving you practical advice, but there is a much deeper meaning. And when you demolish an old wall, when you break something down that was torn up, you might bring out that evil. That evil might come out because a snake is representative of evil. It has venom. That venom can infect. So there is a deeper meaning. I don't use this channel to get very super spiritual, but I want you to actually see that there is a bashat, a literal meaning, and then there's a very deep meaning that you have to actually dig for to see. So because you would ask yourself, what the heck does verse 8 have to do with anything? Well, if you're reading it from the literal level, you would just say, okay, when you dig a well, you might fall in. It's much deeper than that. When you work in a quarry, stones might fall and crush you. When you chop wood, there is danger with each stroke of your axe. Using a dull axe requires great strength, so sharpen the blade. I mean, come on, I think to a lot of believers, I think you can see what this is speaking on, but you want to see your blade always being sharp. Why would you use an axe? And it requires great strength. We don't wrestle with flesh and blood, but principalities and powers of the air. We deal with spiritual things, spiritual matters as spiritual people. That's the value of wisdom. It helps you succeed. If a snake bites before you charm it, what's the use of being a snake charmer? So who are you messing around with? Who are you engaging? Snake has venom. If it bites, what do you think is going to happen to you? Wise words bring approval, but fools are destroyed by their own words. Fools base their thoughts on foolish assumptions, so their conclusions will be wicked madness. They chatter on and on. I mean, that's so obvious today. The ones doing the most talking are doing the least walking. The ones mostly doing the most walking are doing the least talking. Always you hear the expression, practice what you preach. I totally disagree. I think you should preach what you practice. It's a big difference. So people want to practice what they preach. I always would say, preach what you practice. Our Messiah, Yeshua, preached what he practiced. It's a much different animal. No one really knows what is going to happen. No one can predict the future. Fools are so exhausted by a little work that they can't even find their way home. What sorrow for the land ruled by a servant, the land whose leaders feast in the morning. Happy is the land whose king is a noble leader, and whose leaders feast at the proper time to gain strength for their work, not to get drunk. Laziness leads to a sagging roof. Idleness leads to a leaky house. I mean, you can look at that literal. Absolutely. Those that have worked construction and worked in homes and even basic understanding, you can see that. But there's a definite deeper meaning to this. Laziness leads to a saggy roof. Let's talk about the mind. Idleness leads to a leaky house. You should always be engaged in the kingdom, the things of the kingdom. If you're lazy and you fall back and get content, you're going to have a sagging roof and a leaking house. A party gives laughter, wine gives happiness, and money gives everything. Never make light of the king, even in your thoughts, and don't make fun of the powerful, even in your own bedroom. For a little bird might deliver you a message and tell them what you said. That is so evident in 2021. And I don't even want to get into it too much, but everyone speaks about they're listening, they can hear this, they're tracking. I mean, people can relate that why did I talk this conversation and something odd pop up on my phone? Just be careful and be very pointed in your words and pick your words wisely because you never know who could be listening. So on that, I really thank you for however long this took. And I just want to just say thank you. We'll continue up with 11 and 12. I hope that this blessed just one person. I want to keep doing these after Ecclesiastes. I really am excited to move on to whatever the next project is that I feel placed upon my heart by our Creator. I do feel that. But as I close out, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. In the name of our mighty and great Creator. Peace.